It's late 2025, and I recently finished work on an artistic project begun in 2003. It's called Alternate Trigger, a webcomic starring the beloved characters and world of the Mega Man Legends video game series. Even though the comic has now, finally, concluded, I can't help but feel that a project with a history spread across 22 years deserves some words before it's officially laid to rest. Back in 2003, social media wasn't really a thing. Themed message boards were the best place to meet people with common interests and discuss our favorite topics. In video game circles, fans would sometimes make and share webcomics using graphics from the games. On the Mega Man Legends universe boards, we had a member by the name of Sirbot4677 who used to make the Taco Saga, a comic featuring Mega Man characters, among other familiar faces. It was absolutely absurd, but it gave us all a lot of laughs. The Taco Saga helped inspire me to make something similar, but for Mega Man Legends specifically. The problem was, Mega Man Legends was a 3D game series that didn't have 2D assets to use. I'm a graphic artist, but custom pixel art wasn't my forte, nor did I like the idea of traditionally drawing and coloring characters over and over with different angles, poses, and expressions. My solution was to make the comic as the games had been made, in 3D. By 2003, it was commonplace to have impressive 3D work in movies and video games, but among individuals on the web, you didn't see it around much, at least in my experience. By modeling and rendering characters for a video game webcomic, I felt like I was doing something revolutionary. I was fortunate to have in my artistic toolkit a program called Corel Dream 3D. Compared to the tools of today, Dream 3D is downright archaic, but back then it seemed pretty amazing. It was November 6th that I decided to make Alternate Trigger and began modeling Mega Man himself. Having the character models to pose and render over and over again worked wonderfully, and by December 6th I completed and shared the first part. The community response was awesome. People absolutely loved it and wanted more. Warning, from here on this video contains spoilers. Parts 1 and 2 of Alternate Trigger were all about having fun and making Legends fans smile. They established the premise of the characters being pulled away from their video game world and into an alternate reality, but otherwise it was pretty much just a string of whatever humorous situations or gags I could think of. That included stuffing the pages with loads of community references and in-jokes. Although humor was essential and in-jokes would continue to be present all throughout the comic, by part 3 there was already a shift happening. Each new part took a lot of work, and I think I began to realize that if I was going to pour that much effort into it, I should up my game and make this comic something to be truly proud of. I started leaning things a little more in the direction of developing an actual story instead of just random antics and references, which could only be fully enjoyed by the people who were around for it back then. Also, by the end of part 3, I decided that from then on I wanted all background environments to be fully rendered, as I'd done for the ruins. That desire to up my game was, for a long time, Alternate Trigger's bane. The story was heading to Cadillacs Island, where the Bonds would be waiting in full force. That meant I needed to model the Bonds themselves, their robots, an airship for the heroes who arrive in, plus numerous locations around Cadillacs. I love working in 3D, and I was becoming better and better at overcoming Dream 3D's limitations and getting more out of the program, but the sheer workload was insane. My life in general at the time was also getting busier, more complicated, and changing in ways that pushed me away from the video game fandom scene. Nevertheless, I chipped away at Alternate Trigger Part 4, and chipped and chipped. Part 4 didn't arrive on the scene until February 2009, 4.5 years since Part 3. It was a long wait, but there's no denying it was a heck of a leap in quality. Despite being such a lengthy nightmare to create, I think this is the part that I look back on most fondly, because I put so much effort into making it a visual feast of great Legends imagery, and it sort of rebooted the comic with its new direction. Part 5 had the advantage of not needing much in the way of new models. Everything I'd done for Part 4 was getting put to full use, and things were well on their way when the totally unexpected happened. Keiji Inafune announced they were making Mega Man Legends 3. That put Alternate Trigger in a bit of a spot, seeing as the whole premise revolved around the characters being away from the game world. The comic also had a history of referencing real-world time and events, so I didn't know how I was going to explain suddenly having the characters progressing the timeline in a new game while the comic was still ongoing. But of course, I never had to answer that question, since the cancellation of Mega Man Legends 3 was not far off. I'm an ambitiously creative guy, to a fault. Over the years I'd begun many Mega Man Legends inspired projects, despite lacking the time to devote to them. That 2009 to 2012 era in particular was sprinkled with website revamps and fan games and artwork that, when I actually was able to spare time for fan projects, seemed more important and rewarding to work on than Alternate Trigger. So it happened that I released the first 2 pages of Part 6 in December of 2012, and then took a long time to finish the rest. Like, a really long time. That 4.5 years between parts 3 and 4? Yeah, I more than doubled that. Time and energy were both in short supply for me that entire decade. All the while, the aftermath of the Legends 3 fiasco left the fanbase disheartened, and when revival efforts failed, people gradually drifted away. My motivation to work on Alternate Trigger was not helped by the feeling that only 1 or 2 remaining fans actively cared about its continuation. I'd also relearned 3D modeling from scratch using modern tools and methods, which made it extra hard to go back to working in clunky Dream 3D. For a while, it was all I could do to work on Alternate Trigger 1 day each year, on its anniversaries. Then came 2023. My schedule found some breathing room and I used it to tackle long-standing items on my endless to-do list. Alternate Trigger's turn came around and I finished part 6 at last. That felt great, but the comic in full was far from finished, so I kept going. Parts 1 through 3 had been all about wacky, spontaneous fun. Parts 4 through 6 had been about delivering a more polished and engaging experience. Part 7 and onward, it was all about finally wrapping this comic up. A couple big things helped speed progress along. First, I came up with a fun way to explain doing part 7 mostly in 2D, drawn by hand. It was exactly how I didn't want to make the comic originally, but having improved as an artist over the years, it was now a way to output a portion of the comic in record time. The other big thing was that I found a process to sort of export models from Dream 3D and import them into modern software, thus abandoning the old program at last. I hadn't wanted to modernize the comic before because A, it would have meant remaking so many models, and B, the style would be inconsistent with the comic's earlier parts. The export-import discovery helped a lot to offset those concerns, and the temporary 2D style served a double purpose of blurring the changeover between the old 3D style and the new. As for the story, planning out the end of Alternate Trigger wasn't easy, seeing as the comic hadn't really had a story when it began. Elements included on a whim back then, like wanting to give Juno an appearance and provide an excuse for the heroes to head to catalogs, had serious implications later on. Dealing with that pretty much dominated Part 7 in its entirety. There were many smaller details that needed to be addressed as well, or that influenced the ending in ways that I probably would have worked differently had I planned everything out from the beginning. But then, if I'd planned it all out from the beginning, Alternate Trigger wouldn't be what it is, and I like what it is. It's pretty cool that this project embodies so much of my personal artistic journey, highlighting my progression most notably as a 3D artist, but also as a 2D artist and even a storyteller. By the end, I had learned so much about presentation, choosing the right angles for shots, laying out the text, pacing the panels, all stuff that was given no thought when I started this adventure. Similarly, Alternate Trigger's haphazard nature and lengthy progression have allowed it to become something that also encapsulates the experience of being a Legends fan these past 22 years. At the beginning, we'd only been waiting a few years for a sequel, and the comic has that fresh sense of hope about it. As years pass, the frustration bleeds into the pages. When our sequel was finally promised and then taken away, the comic has that covered too, a brief flash of enthusiasm and excitement in the middle of the long wait that came before and was to come after. But the characters, like many of the fans, remained strong and carried on, and of course the comic finale is set on Clicklin Island, where Legends 3, or at least the prototype version, was to take place. It's filled with imagery from a game we never got to play, and pays tribute to the strength of a fandom that continues to show its love for the series, even after a quarter century of stagnation. It's been over 2 months since Part 9 concluded Alternate Trigger. Its reception was predictably minimal, and people focused more on celebrating my accomplishment than the content itself. But I for one think it ended well, tying up all the loose ends in an amusing finale that stays true to the comic's original intent and tone. I hope more and more Legends fans who thought I'd never finish it will continue to rediscover it and be delighted. Thanks for reading, and for watching all the way to the end.